Imagine arriving at a town where more than 100 people once lived. Families, children, neighbors, friends. You expect laughter, voices, signs of life. Instead, you find nothing. No people, no bodies, no graves, no signs of a struggle. Just empty buildings and silence. The kind of silence that feels wrong. The kind that makes your skin crawl. Then, you discover a single word, carved into wood. A message left behind by the missing colonists. One word, one clue, one mystery. A mystery that has survived for more than 4 centuries. The word was Croatoan, and nobody knows for certain what happened next. This is the story of the lost colony of Roanoke, one of the greatest unsolved disappearances in human history. To understand the mystery, we need to travel back to the year 1587. England was desperate to establish a permanent settlement in the New World. Spain already dominated the Americas. Gold flowed into Spanish ports. Power followed. England wanted a piece of that future, so a group of settlers boarded ships and crossed the Atlantic Ocean. Their destination was a small island off the coast of modern-day North Carolina, Roanoke. Unlike previous expeditions, these settlers were not just explorers. They were families, men, women, children, people who intended to stay, people who intended to build a home. Leading them was a governor named John White. Among the settlers was White's pregnant daughter. Soon after arriving, she gave birth. The child was named Virginia Dare, the first English baby born in North America. For a moment, the future seemed bright, but Roanoke quickly became a struggle for survival. Food was scarce, supplies were limited, relations with nearby tribes were unpredictable. The colony desperately needed help, so the settlers made a decision. John White would return to England, gather supplies, and come back. A simple plan. At least, it should have been. But history intervened. England was preparing for war. The Spanish Armada threatened invasion. Every available ship became valuable. Years passed. 1 year, then 2, then 3. John White was trapped in England, unable to return, unable to contact the colony, unable to know whether his family was still alive. His daughter remained on Roanoke, so did his granddaughter. As months became years, White could only imagine what was happening across the ocean. Then finally, in 1590, he secured passage back to America. What he expected was a reunion. What he found was something far more disturbing. August 18th, 1590, exactly 3 years after his granddaughter's birth, John White stepped onto Roanoke Island. The settlement should have been bustling with life. Instead, it was empty, completely empty. Every colonist had vanished. The houses had been dismantled. Structures were gone. The settlement looked abandoned. Yet something felt strange. There were no signs of panic, no signs of battle, no burned buildings, no scattered belongings, no bodies, no graves, no skeletons. It looked as if the colonists had left deliberately, as if they had packed up and gone somewhere else. Then White discovered something carved into a wooden post. A clue. The only clue. The word red, Croatoan, nearby. The letters T-R-O had been carved into a tree. To anyone else, the message might have seemed meaningless, but John White immediately recognized it. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island and the home of a Native American tribe. More importantly, before White left for England, the colonists had agreed on a plan. If they relocated, they would leave a message indicating where they had gone, and if they left under threat, they would carve a cross beside the message. White looked carefully. There was no cross, no warning, no distress signal, only one word, Croatoan. It appeared the colonists had left willingly, but before White could investigate further, nature intervened. A violent storm approached. The ship's crew refused to continue. White was forced to leave, and the trail went cold. Forever, or so it seemed, because over the centuries, researchers have proposed several explanations, none proven, all unsettling. The most popular theory is assimilation. The colonists joined nearby Native American communities and eventually became part of them. The evidence is surprisingly strong. The Croatoan tribe had friendly relations with the settlers. The carved message appears to point directly toward them. Later accounts describe Native Americans with unusual European features, gray eyes, English-style tools, stories passed down through generations. If the colony was struggling, joining local tribes may have been the only way to survive. This theory explains several mysteries: why there were no bodies, why there were no signs of violence, why the settlers appeared to leave voluntarily. But there is a problem. No definitive proof has ever been found. No surviving records, no confirmed descendants, only clues and possibilities. The second theory is far darker. The colonists were killed, perhaps by a hostile tribe, perhaps by disease and conflict, or perhaps by a powerful enemy across the ocean. Spain was England's greatest rival, and Spanish intelligence knew about England's ambitions in the New World. Some historians have suggested that a Spanish expedition may have discovered Roanoke and erased it. The theory is not impossible. Spain had both motive and capability. Other historians point instead toward regional conflicts with native tribes. The late 16th century was not a peaceful place. Violence was common, resources were limited, trust was fragile. But this theory faces one massive problem. Where were the bodies? Where were the bones? A massacre leaves evidence, a battlefield, weapons, remains. Roanoke left nothing, only silence, and silence is difficult to explain. The third theory may be the most realistic. The colonists relocated, not to Croatoan, but farther inland, searching for better land, better resources, a better chance of survival. Archaeologists have discovered English artifacts in areas away from Roanoke: pottery fragments, metal tools, pieces of daily life. Small clues that suggest settlers may have moved elsewhere. Supporters of this theory believe Roanoke was never the colonists' final destination. Instead, it became the starting point of a desperate migration. But there is another possibility hidden within this theory. One even darker. What if the settlers tried to escape by sea? By the time John White returned, 3 years had passed. No supplies, no rescue, no certainty. Hope may have disappeared. The colonists may have dismantled parts of the settlement, using the lumber to build boats, crude vessels, fragile vessels, desperate vessels. Then they sailed, perhaps toward another English settlement, perhaps toward friendly tribes, perhaps toward home. But the Atlantic Ocean is unforgiving. A single storm, one wrong current, one navigational mistake, and an entire community could vanish without a trace. No survivors, no records, no evidence, only an empty island and a mystery. More than 400 years have passed. Empires have risen, empires have fallen, wars have reshaped the world. Yet Roanoke remains unsolved. Perhaps the settlers found a new life among friendly tribes. Perhaps they died in the wilderness. Perhaps they disappeared beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Or perhaps the answer has been sitting in front of us this entire time, hidden inside a single word, a word carved into wood, a word left behind by people who knew they might never be seen again. Croatoan. The real mystery may not be what happened to the colonists. The real mystery is why, after more than 4 centuries, we still cannot explain it. And maybe that is why the story refuses to die. Because deep down, we all fear the same thing: to disappear, to leave no trace, to become a mystery. So what do you believe happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? Did they survive? Were they killed? Or did they simply vanish into history? Let me know your theory in the comments below, and if you enjoy historical mysteries that refuse to be solved, subscribe, because some secrets never stay buried.